Welcome to the Public Sector Show by Tech Table. Super excited to have three amazing, fantastic guests on the show today. Glenn, for those who don't know you, give us a short intro.
Glenn Mack, Chief Technology Officer for the North Carolina Administrative Office of the Courts. Been involved in state government for a little over 20 plus years. Before that, did my tour of duty in the private sector, and happy to be here with these esteemed gentlemen here today.
Fantastic. Dom, you are a returning guest, but give us a quick intro.
And this is my second podcast with you. The first one was like 5 months ago, I think, down in Coral Springs. So I'm Dominic. I'm the CIO here in Broward County. Been with the county now 2 years. Prior to that, I was the CTO at the state of Florida for one of the governor's agencies. Like yourself, Glenn, I did my tour of duty in both private sector and public sector. I think I'm half between each. I did 3 tours in federal sector. So I lived a third of my life in DC, Fairfax County. Do not miss that traffic. Do not miss those commutes. Those were days of greener pastures, to say, in terms of things to do and cool stuff. But it was a fun time to be down in DC at those areas. But happy to be with such esteemed colleagues such as yourselves, and looking forward to having a fun conversation. So thanks for having me, Joe. Thank you for having me, Glenn and John, as well.
Fantastic. John, you want to give us a short intro?
All right. Jon Minshew. I am the Chief Strategist for the Southeast at Dell Technologies. Before that, I was 30 years with North Carolina State Government, where I retired as a CIO for the Governor's Office, CIO for the Lieutenant Governor's Office, and the state's first Chief Customer Officer over at NCDIT. I did a nice 30-year career. Glenn and I worked together many nights, many long weekends, and transferred over to the private sector in 2021 and been loving it ever since.
Fantastic. That's a recurring theme, John, that I hear from people at Dell who've been on the show. They left the public sector and they just love Dell. So I'm still waiting for my invite. No, I'm kidding. I love running my small business.
It's awesome. I can tell you.
We're a huge Dell shop. We've been Dell for many years, John. So I don't know if Steve LaBouffe and those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. We learned about him. He's a pretty cool guy. He's recently married his daughter off. So if next time you see him, ask him how his newlywed's doing and how the new husband's doing. We like Steve. Steve's a good egg. He's a good person, very customer focused, let's just get this stuff done, roll Steve's back and get things accomplished. There's no fluff with that guy. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, he actually speaks very highly of you also. He's the one that actually turned me on to you, and Joe said, "Oh, I know that guy. Yeah, let's do it."
All right. I'll be sure to give Steve a thanks and a check's in the mail for him.
Yeah.
Some Dell servers probably, right?
That's great. What I was going to comment, John, was when we had Derek come on the show, we had the whole mini segment and it was Derek came on with Lisa Kent, she just retired, former CIO for the city of Houston, and Melissa Kraft, the CIO for the city of Frisco in Texas. And Derek just had this segment where he was just like, "This is how much I love Dell. Let me just tell you." And we're like, "Yes, keep going." Lisa's Derek, I'm so glad you're feeling so much better. I'm glad. It was pretty funny.
As everyone on this call knows, it's amazing when you transfer from 24/7, dozens and hundreds of emails, to a normal corporate life where you're not 24/7 and you're not answering 400 emails a day and you're not getting called on the weekends. It's really awesome.
That sounds great. I actually can't empathize. As a small business owner, I don't even know what that's like. But for our audience, it's like, all right, hey Joe, we got to get this going. Glenn, so for those who don't know the landscape, give us a 30,000-foot overview in North Carolina and the courts.
Yeah, sure. We have 100 counties. Each county has at least one courthouse, 105, I believe, to be exact. And what my agency does is oversees all of the technical areas and administrative functions for all of the courthouses and court system for North Carolina. So it's a pretty broad stretch from Murphy to Manteo. For those of you that aren't familiar with geography, that's from the mountains to the coast. And it's just an exciting time for me. I'm recently in this role, less than a year.
Oh, congratulations.
Spent the last 17 years with public safety and adult correction. And so what I like to share with folks is I know what happens before you go to court, and I know what happens after you go to court. So it was a seamless transition for me to move into courts. And it's just been a phenomenal experience thus far, a really strong group of folks that work there, not only that I oversee, but just my peers, and just an exciting time for North Carolina as we've implemented our Odyssey solution, which we've basically digitized the court system. And so we're just excited about the future of the court system in North Carolina and go from there. See what things I can add to the mix to make it even better.
I love that. We're going to go. There you go, Dom. I love that. We're going to come back to you in a second. I just want to give Dom the opportunity to kind of lay the 30,000 foot overview in Broward.
Yeah. So first, congrats, Glenn, on transition. It's a great opportunity for you. It's almost like a seamless moving overview. So you're going from one house to the next, and you're just continuing to building out the foundation. Here in Broward County, we have 31 cities in Broward. We have 67 to 70 lines of businesses. The cook of the course for us is a constitutional. So my role as the CIO for the county is to oversee cyber applications, policy, artificial intelligence, infrastructure, endpoint security, the usual things we do on the front and the back end, and collaboration with across of our 14 IT managers across all of our lines of businesses. So our port, our aviation, our water, our enterprise capability pieces, our constitutionals, I'll put the course, the sheriff's offices, secretaries of elections. But there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of communication and building of synergies of technologies. And it's been a good 2-year journey. So we've been heavily investing in AI in terms of what we can do in terms of capabilities, product automation. I'm very happy we have a full authorized cap policy. We have a full authorized governance strategy with an intake process. So as we're learning and culturally learning how to use these tool sets, it's very different from the private sector where you have scale and speed. And I've been in both sides of those equations. So you got to figure out where you pick your battles in terms of what's the need versus the want. Ask the question. It's a lot of communications, bring the group along, a lot of consultation. But it's been a fun 2 years, and we've got a significant challenge ahead with some of the property taxes coming up on the ballot. I'm excited for it because I still think automation is the key to everything. Technology drives all these innovations. We hope to be a chance to partner and provide solutions and scalability to whoever the voters put out in November. So that's kind of high level view. But my day is a mix of collaboration, strategic, coach. I have 165 people that work for me, but every day it's a new challenge, and I'm just happy to be in the role that I am. And then last thing I'll close, Joe, I still think, as I shared with you, it is a great time to be a CIO. You couldn't ask for more capabilities, opportunities, platforms, software. But with every great innovation, there's always the other side of the coin. The threat landscape becomes more open, more challenging. So you're always battling the scale. So for us, it's what our customers want, but also do right by the entities and have the right security balances, but also from the revenue side, your public sector, protect, defend the citizens. If you're on private sector, grow revenue, shareholder values. It's a great time to be in our space.
Exactly what Dominic just said for me as well. Oh, that was a good summary. Yeah,
Thanks,
very
man. Appreciate it.
well,
Thank
very
you.
well stated.
Thank you.
That is great. We're actually going to go a little bit deeper. Okay, so when I was at Infotech Live, the big theme of their conference was that I thought it was kind of timely as I was thinking about this was from hype to value for AI. And Dom kind of hit it on the head of talking about AI, automation. Some of the stuff that comes to mind right now for me that I'm thinking about is data readiness before. This is a big one, I think, off camera, right? There's a lot of conversations around, hey, actually, I'm not ready yet. Here's the process we're kind of going through. Different agencies or at different landscapes. So Glenn, yeah, I'd love to hear from you first. You're just kind of, I think you said under a year and getting your feet wet at the agency. What is the landscape and how are you preparing for AI, which is just constantly evolving? And when I say AI, I know in public sector, a lot of times I refer to generative AI. There's other types of AI, like the Waymos I love to write in and all that kind of fun jazz and robotics and all that stuff. I'm using this as general and that, but I'd just love to hear from you. Like, where's the readiness? Where's the landscape for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'll tell you, in my previous job, we were well into AI. We were using facial recognition. We were building code. We were doing a lot of behind the scenes techie things with AI. And over to the courts, and I'll just say they had a much more conservative approach to AI, meaning the policy was there was none. We're starting to shift the narrative on that. I think there's recognition of the value that AI can bring. And with that, we're playing some catch up, to be honest with you. We've got to prepare our environment. The data modeling piece had never been accomplished in prior years. So we're looking at how do we model our data to prepare it for the world of AI related solutions and initiatives. We are doing some pilots today. I'm very thankful for that. The director has seen the light and we're starting to embark on a more of a crawl, walk, run approach to AI. We're looking at how it could be leveraged for the use of the judges, back end office, administrative functionalities and efficiencies created there. So I'm really excited about it. As I mentioned, when we were getting started, I was at Cisco Live a couple of weeks ago, and obviously AI is the talk of the town, and the ability for Cisco to leverage things like Mythos and implement it into their software that they run their network equipment on to, for lack of a better way, self-heal the network, right? So they can they're touting the ability to pinpoint where network problems are. And so I'm excited about that. We're a huge Cisco shop at AOC. And so I'm excited about the opportunities for AI to make our jobs better, faster, smarter, more secure.
That's so great, Glenn. I love that. No, actually, she was fantastic. Jeanette Benoit, who is the CIO for the San Bernardino courts out here in California. She came on the podcast, and it was very similar. The court's much different than maybe as far as, let's call it, AI maturity. And there's a little bit more of that caution.
Yeah, it's definitely a much more conservative approach to it. I know that there's been some legal proceedings already, or some decisions where some judges have leveraged AI and formulating some of their decisions, and those were deemed admissible. And so there's those concerns of how much retention of AI and results do we need to retain. So those things we're trying to wrap our heads around, so that we can enter this fully prepared, fully knowledgeable, so that we don't get caught in any type of situation when it comes to AI, all the way around, really. There's just a lot to ingest, especially since AI really was never really allowed into the agency. So we got a lot of work to do, prep work to do, and really knowledge transfer, education on our own part, from administration, from the technology piece, from the leadership, to understand what the benefits or what the risks are.
Here's what I'm sort of glad that I'm on this side of the fence versus in Dom's and Glenn's shoes, due to the fact of the legislative pressure. Could you imagine, because AI is really a tool you use to accomplish something, right? But because of all the hype, legislators are saying, we want Glenn and Dominic, we want you to do AI. Okay, what do you want me to do with it? I don't matter. Just do it. Could you imagine 50 years ago if they would say, hey guys, we want you to do COBOL. We want you to do this programming language. No outcomes, just do it because it's so hypey. So what we're seeing all over is that CIOs under legislative pressure, and the CIOs can't really say, we're not ready. You got to get the data ready. So that is a lot of work behind the scenes.
Yeah. And to Glenn's point, I think he hit on a lot of key themes. You got to crawl before you run, before you walk, right? Those are the most important principles you got to do first. But I take a different tack to it. And this is where I go back to the themes I've had a few years back. We went down this path with data catalog, master data management, how good your data is, and classification. So I think if you've done those underlying pinnings already, you've got a good foundational piece. AI is going to use that existing data to do prompting on top of it. So if you've already got a good catalog of what you've already built, you've got 90% of the work already there. It doesn't have to be perfect. It has to be properly classified, identified, and retrievable. And then also on the hype side, Joe, this is where I get really excited. I can start consolidating some of my data warehouses, my data lakes, and my SaaS environments, because all I have to tell the data is it's over there. It's over there. It's in my batch, it's in my CRM, it's in my data, it's in my SQL, it's in my Azure, and give it the instructions to learn. So that's the good side of it. The other side that Glenn was saying earlier is the education piece and some of the challenges and the policy. It took us 2 years to get our CAP policy approved because we wanted to be very targeted, only generative first, basically, right? And that means no conversational AI, mostly Copilot, Grammarly, ChatGPT. So we've got those in place, and we're going to be adding probably either Claude to it for coding. You might go down the Perplexity route for research, for analysis, as a tool to use, basically. And the second part is we want to make sure that who uses it has, you were saying, Glenn, is what's the outcome? What's the viewpoints, John, right? We have a very specific policy. If you're going to do X with something, you got to tell the business, let the business tell us what the outcome is. Do you have the business case identified? And if you do, and if they approve it at that level, then the security piece is easy after that. So we had about 30 use cases that we identified what the output was going to be in the outcome. We built those models. And the other thing is we learned also is that there are very specific use cases for very specific models. So if you're going to use Copilot, you're going to use the Copilot ecosystem. If you have a Gemini, you'll use the Gemini ecosystem for those things. And Glenn, we're a massive Cisco shop just like you. Every vendor we talk to, it has an AI component to it. But the one last thing, Joe, and I think it's an important question for us going forward on the hype. We're already looking at the tokenization costs going forward because the hype for us is not living up to the data point. We're already seeing anecdotal evidence that talks about budgets already being wiped out because of token use and developer being use cases. So we're taking a revaluation across the entire enterprise about how this is going to be done. And we're forcing our vendors to say, how many tokens are we getting per AMU and what additional token cost is per AMU and how much is going to be generated for that individual seat that we're buying. So we're actually putting ourselves back into our corner. Got to figure that piece out because I can't budget that right now. I have no way to model that right now going forward. So the hype is on the token piece. We're going to start seeing a price war very soon between all the language models out there.
Dominic, you hit the nail on the head with the token uncertainty, right?
Yep.
Nobody wants that surprise bill. And as we learn these tools, there's obviously going to be more token usage because you're just figuring it out on the fly.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of concern budgetarily on how is this going to work?
Yep.
How do we meter? How do we audit the usage? How do we control it so that there's not these invoices that show up at our doorsteps?
And Glenn, I'll send you something. I have a collaboration with a really good doctor. His name is Dr. Carrie Miller. We work very closely in a lot of things. She's got some token calculators that I want to share with you that we're using as a model. But we're asking the ChatGPTs, if I buy a $20 seat license per person, how many AMU am I going to get out of that seat license? Because when you do the token numbers, you can see how many words are created on that. And then also if you get a PDF file that you throw into ChatGPT, if it's not properly rendered, you're going to waste your tokens as it reads through before your first prompt comes in, basically. And you're already down your prompt count. And before you know it, you're saying, you've hit the limit of your session, you're timed out, and come back tomorrow and may recover, basically, or just pay more money. And also the last thing, Glenn, for the courts we have here, Johan's a great guy who runs the courts. They're doing a lot of great stuff on AI, but they're also coming into those challenges too about the cost factor going forward because they have records or retention policies. So everything you talked about, we're hitting it too, basically. But I want to share with you what we have on tokens to help you guys out.
Would love that. I think the more education that I can bring to the table and understand it myself, it would be just a value for my agency and the state in and of itself. So,
I'll send it out to you after our call today.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Can you CC me? I would love to see that.
No.
It's classified, Joe. Sorry.
Oh, man.
You have to
Government
buy
officials only.
Glenn. You have to bring Glenn and give him all new jackets.
I thought it was half a jacket. I thought he was getting half or a
No.
sleeve.
John's one jacket is enough for Dom and I.
Glenn's team needs about 15 jackets to cover the cost of the document.
Okay, the tokenization piece, in all seriousness, super fascinating. I think a lot of folks are. I think there's a conversation today, and I think it'll probably rise in the short term. I think at some point it'll fall.
I disagree. I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree because you have to have the vendors recoup their investment costs. And the only way you're going to get that is to use the tool on the token piece. You're going to see a price war. It's already starting to bring people in, and you're going to start seeing meter costs. We have a vendor that already bought Salesforce bought a company called Meter, which is going to be tied to their agents, which is subscription user-based models. It's like your water meter at your home. The more you use it, you're going to get a monthly bill. The less you use it, so it's going to be like that. Consumption-based, user-based policies. How do you budget for that? How do Glenn and I go to our population and say, okay, I've got 1,000 agents in the entire enterprise. Are you going to use all those agents? I have no way to model that on a monthly scale. It's impossible to do that.
So Dom, when I was at the executive symposium at Cisco Live, my colleagues across the country, both private and public sector, were all discussing the very same thing. And one of the things that was a common theme is we're not buying licenses for everybody in our organization. It needs to be more strategic, more targeted, so that we can almost have some control over the meterization of these tokens.
Yep.
But really, one guy, and I forgot where he was from, said basically you're hopping in a gypsy cab and you have no idea what the bill is going to be when you get to your destination.
That's brilliant. I like that. I love that. That's really good.
And so really, Joe, we don't know how much these tokens are going to cost.
Yeah.
And based on the usage and the compute on the back end. And so there's real concern because some of the questions we've already asked, we've had them come in, right? And very promising use cases with them. But how much is asking this question? And the representative really couldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
Depends on how complex it is and what all they have to do prior to spitting out an answer.
And then, Joe, last thing for that, if you go back to Gartner's CIO summit last year, they're really getting into agents and bringing agents into your security operations center. Those require tokens. Those are analysis. So wherever you have a business unit that has agents and tokens, let's say I got 20 strategic lines of businesses that I know I'm going to use that. That cost is not always ephemeral. It's going to be changing up and down. And there's no way to gauge that on an annual 1-year budget basis. It's impossible to justify that. It's impossible to project 2 years from now. I think there's going to be a consolidation of all these AI tools at some point because there isn't enough seed money to go around. So if you're 11 Labs, if you're Notebook LLM, if you're Perplexity, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Grammarly, if you're in the top 10 sphere, you're going to be there. But some of the smaller ones like Hygiene or Gamma that you use for other things, it's going to become fight or flight and survival of the fittest at some point. And so I worry about that part. So the tokenization costs, the language models, the monetization, the data retention, the metadata we capture, we're just getting started in a lot of these things. And no one, and like Glenn said, no one has an answer. But when you ask an executive, they'll say, pricing will be fluid, we'll be close to the customer, we want to make sure we meet their needs. But in reality, Glenn is a state constitutional court, I'm a county that's going to go through a significant change in how we allocate our dollars. So that's all going to change going forward.
This is the newest version of moving to the cloud.
Yeah.
Moving to the cloud, it was free, put your stuff up there, not a big deal. And now the cloud storage costs, whether it's hot storage or cold storage, can vary widely. And we're seeing some exorbitant expenses around cloud storage now where we're even contemplating, do we bring it back down?
We have our O5 cloud, but one of the things we're thinking about going forward is the metadata content that comes from the prompts. And how long do we retain that, right? There's no retention policy for a prompt, but you can be under a public record request for the use of those tool sets. So how long do we keep it? And so we're fucking with that too as well. So Joe, I don't think this is going to go down anytime soon. The hype's going to keep going up, but what we're going to be on the other side of that hype coin, right? I still think there's going to be less on the spend in enterprise because you're going to hit an inflection point and we have to start consuming. I don't know about Glenn, but we're hesitant with agentic because we want to figure out regenerative first, right? We want to fill out Gen AI first, get that in place. But we know the agentic and non-human identities are coming. And I sit on an advisory board where I have a tool that does that stuff, but I got to redo my infrastructure at that point, right? So Cisco will come and say, start orchestration, segmentation. That's a cost factor. So a lot of this stuff is tied to how much capital I get to do these things. And we tell our public sector vendors, we don't have an infinite amount of money to do all these great things. So what's the must have I can do right now to ensure that Glenn's courts work well, and my port works well, and my citizens work well, and human services does their thing. So it's going to be a choice at some point.
Yeah, Dom, you're right. I'm looking at modernization of my court systems, but oh, by the way, we've got a refresh that's new, and things will become unsupported. They'll be out of warranty, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And so how do you balance those CapEx expenses that you need to have just to keep what you have the lights on, but also continuing to modernize, leveraging AI. So it is a balancing act with what funding is available.
Yeah. I'm doing my 3-year projection right now. I got to think 3 years out. I can't do it year to year because Dell has said it to us as well as Cisco. The compute cost is not going to change from there 3 or 4 years. You won't see a price reduction until 2030 at the earliest. And that's everywhere. So whether it be a GPU, a compute cost, and I can give you a good example. The server I bought from Dell last year was about $40,000. That same server is now $75,000 just for the mid-tier Gen AI, not with the high end, but enough to give me some level of compute power in that space. So I can't buy a Cadillac. Even if I could, I wouldn't because I would blow out my budget basically.
So do either one of you, would you think about more in the future of consumption models? For example, Dell has a pay-as-you-go.
See, I hesitate because my budgets aren't always guaranteed every year in my operating budget. So it's very difficult to sign up for pay-as-you-go because I don't know what population is going to use that stuff going forward. It's impossible for me to be that crystal ball. If I had that, I think Glenn and I probably wouldn't be on this podcast. We'd be trading stocks on a boat somewhere, probably making a lot of money. It's not going to happen. And we can't rely on the vendors to do it, because from their side, it'll be, if you do it this way, it's a flat rate. Amazon will tell you, come into our capability and spend this much money per year, get all this great stuff. I can't even guarantee that's spent. It's impossible to do that. We have to get super creative in a lot of things without sacrificing the investment in the quality and the protection we have to do. So
Yeah, I agree with that. John, you know how it is. We need to have our numbers fleshed out. T was probably an exception. You guys had a lot more fun money to do different exploratory projects with, but we need to be able to forecast that out. We can't have these surprise invoices coming in or use. To Dom's point, if something explodes in use and popularity and we see a spike in usage, which results in a spike in the bill, that would be hard to ingest because we didn't predict that.
yeah.
Just don't have it in our budget.
And I know I've asked a couple of my strategic vendors, let's start thinking about, a best swag model, because we want to put the county, and I know Glenn is probably thinking this too as well, how you make his court system the best in the United States, right? To be forward thinking, you got to have forward thinking budgets to also have those scenarios. And we're asking these hard questions, but they have to be asked now, because if we don't ask them now, we'll never get the answers until it's too late, basically. And so we are in this unique bubble of, we have to innovate, we have to do these great things, but there's also the fiscal reality part. I go back to, you guys remember the .com days. I was a Cisco guy in 1999, 2000. John Chambers' famous line, "That's a 100-year flood." We're getting to that saturation point where the spigot turns off on some of the generative AI and the investment spend, the data center spend. You're starting to see some hesitation there. But going forward, we got to use what we have. And I keep telling our vendors, we'll use what we have, but if I can't get X, I can't buy Y, because the oversight has to be there. And if I can't oversight it, I'm not going to implement a tool or a piece of AI tool. And those are the realities that are going to have to come to face. And that's just the expectations going forward. So on your hype question, Joe, I think the hype is still there, but it's in different areas now. The concerns are in different areas too. Gen AI was 3 years ago. We're already in agentic and non-agents and massive agents everywhere and full autonomous. I know, Glenn, I don't know about you, but I'm not going full autonomous. I don't have a use case for it. We'll just do assist models and semi-autonomous and call it a day, basically.
I don't have the budget, the skill set, or the manpower, or probably the support for that right now. So
Yeah.
I think we're always N -2, -3
Yep.
from the private sector. We'll figure it out, but it's going to be interesting to see how it shakes out in the public sector with the way that the industry is going full steam ahead. It's moving faster than we can even comprehend in the public sector.
Oh, God, yeah. That's the hard part. Yeah.
So just to round out, I think this is actually a really great topic that a lot of folks are struggling with. I'm on the boat of hoping market forces actually lower prices long term on the curve, but I might be wrong. But John, I'd love to hear from you. How are you advising clients right now, right? You just kind of put agentic to the side, everything from data lake houses to just in general, we talk about kind of data readiness, budgeting 3 years out.
Right.
How are you working with 30 years in public sector? How are you both empathy and then guiding at the same time?
A couple of things there. One thing that I love that Dell has is we go in and talk with customers. We have a day fee waived workshop where we sit down with the leaders and their trusted advisors and their directors. And we go in and say, okay, what is it that you want to do with AI? What outcomes? And we say, okay, let's prioritize these with you. And it's a chance to see with our AI experts, to see some of the hard answers, some of the hard questions, hard answers that you want. I think that's awesome, especially when it's no cost to you. And that way you get to sit down and it's nothing to do with sales. It's a pure business outcome. How can we help you? How can we be a partner? I love that part. We also realize that's from my experience and our experience in North Carolina, you're being asked to predict and project 2 or 3 years out for sure, right? But a lot of legislative bodies and a lot of legislative sessions are saying, how can we cut? How can we cut taxes? So the agencies across the United States that we deal with are saying, I had to cut 10%. I had to cut 15%. I had to do this. And now with the market the way it is, and we're at the mercy of the market also, just like any state government out there, the demand is so high right now, we have to somehow ride out this wave for 2 or 3 years. It's a fact. So how can we sit down and go over, okay, what are some quick wins? Because you need quick wins for your legislators. You need to see you're doing something. You need something that's really beneficial to your constituents, right? And just sitting down and seeing the business side. And I love working with the business side of the folks to see how we can work backwards. That's really what you got to do is, okay, this is what we want to accomplish. How do we get there? And how do we get there at least with a decent budget?
Okay, so kind of rounding this to making the business case up the level. I'm thinking about Dom, thinking about Glenn. You got to make this case to the CFO, the CEO. I don't even know who else you report to. You got to get buy-in from, if there's legislatures, you got to get all kinds of buy-in.
It's Glenn's president, and it's his emperor. We have to go talk to as well.
Yeah, I've got a director, and there's an assistant director that has a lot of voice impact, the CFO, and then the Chief Justice, the gentleman that oversees the court system for North Carolina. He's over the North Carolina Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And so
there's
a lot of buy-in. And then all of this costs money, which we don't have. So then we have to lobby for it.
Yeah.
And whether it's one time or recurring. So there's just you got to prime the pump, and you've got to really put in the effort for the justification and see if the money's and funding's available. And then I'll just toss this in as well. What I'm running across is lack of skill set, expertise as we move into this arena.
Yeah.
And so the leadership has been around long enough where they understand if you bring a vendor in to help you, then what? Are they here forever?
Yeah.
How do we obtain the necessary in-house skill sets to do whatever it is that we're doing now, right? The shift is faster than the traditional state employee career growth life cycle.
Yeah. But we love to come in and provide services. And at the very beginning, we'll be up front. We love to work ourselves out of a job, right? Over time, no matter how long it takes, we, come in, stand it up. So you have the latest, greatest, but then train your staff. You hire staff over the years. We provide staff, and then slowly you'll be able to take it over. I think that's a great approach. And if it just so happens, you say, hey, we love you guys being in here, and we can just extend that contract. We can do the dirty work, and you can concentrate on the bigger fish.
Yeah. And here in the county, so I work for a CFO. We have agenda reviews. We have anything above a certain dollar, it goes to the board for approval. But a lot of our stuff, our big capital stuff is already like standardized and contracts. So there's like either renewals or new capital, or they're just refresh cycles. But one of the things that Glenn mentioned was about the budget. On the vendor side, of course, we have to educate the commissioners and the board and our staff members and our executives that these prices weren't the same 5 years ago. So, for example, when you replace an end-of-life product with a new one, there's a massive sticker shock. They go, what happened? So that product was 10 years old. Now we're buying something that's 10 years newer. And so there's that education process, that market survey piece. We're a Dell shop, we're a Cisco shop. Glenn made it very clear. We do a lot of in-house stuff. Talent's hard to find, of course, when you're public sector. But our rule is we get implementers for a year and we maintain it ourselves. We have technical account managers for all of our reps. We use a lot of Cisco stuff, Microsoft, Dell services for that. But we try to make the county an employer of choice, which is sometimes hard to find good talent. We believe in that. We don't do a lot of staff augmentation with most of those roles because it hurts the morale of the people that we're trying to hire. But we also understand that we have to have in the situation, we have an ad hoc, we have to get somebody. We'll go to our vendors and say, who do you have? Do you have a Cisco engineer? Do you have a Dell person? Do you have a Fortinet guy? Do you got this vendor or that vendor? So we always have those balances, but Glenn echoed a good point. The workforce talent is going to be challenging going forward and trying to find these skill sets. It's a constant virtuous symphony of things that happen. And if one key is off, they go back and hit the mic again and start up again and start redoing the sheet of music again, basically. And it's a challenging process because, and not to put the vendors on the spot, but the vendors make it harder for us to justify some of their process because of the price increases that they have to maintain a profitability. We understand that part. We also have to say, you can't ask for this much money. I can only do this much. You got to come, where can you meet us and allow us to do things, allow Glenn to be successful with the courts and make his district court people happy, give them the tools they need to be efficient so their case log comes down, not back up because they don't have technology. Or for us in the county, citizens coming to our portals and seeing things and doing things, right? We need vendors to put some more skin in the game they're in this transition period until the pricing becomes stabilized. And that's the conversation we have with our vendors, is saying, you want to be with the county, we want you here, but we need you to be truly in. And that means you sacrificing margins for the greater good, basically. And some do and a lot don't.
I had that conversation with one of my partners this morning, and I will say that my primary vendors, the ones I've been using and working with for years over years, they're in. They've got skin in the game, and they are truly business partners, and they understand the impact that they make and the dependency we have to work with them. So
does one of those start with a D?
We love the D folks.
We've had many workshops with Steve in a lot of areas. Sometimes they work well. Sometimes they have a fit. There's a lot that don't, but we love those conversations. We want to maintain that relationship. Cisco's the same way. We got a lot of credits out there. We're trying to find every option we have, every creative thought is on the table. And then we're going to have to be this way for a while until we get some kind of stabilization. It kind of goes back. I go back to your business history. We were this way in 99, 2000. We're buying tons of stuff, tons of platforms. And then there's a massive crash. So we're trying to get ahead of that now. I think AI is a good lesson learned from those days in the past. Remember, history has a way of repeating itself, and you're seeing it right now. And so I know I don't want to be in that wave that comes down. I want to be able to ride it out up here, be stable enough and not have such a massive low where I'm sacrificing tech to maintain a price point, right?
And another thing your vendors have to be cognizant of is that when you get one-time money, that's not guaranteed anytime ever versus recurring. And people think you have a lot of funds when you got to be very careful with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. One-time money is called one-time money for a reason.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're not going to get it.
If you don't spend it now, you never get it again. Okay.
Yeah.
This is a great conversation. Hey, before we just put a bow on this, I'm kind of curious. Y'all refer to Dell as Dell or
It's the big dog. When I call up the Cisco rep, I call, here comes the umbrella corporation. That's what I call them, basically.
Let's go with Dell.
You know what, Joe? I'll sum up what Dom just described in a simple phrase that someone shared with me a long time ago. There's being able to buy a car, or can you afford the car, right? And so do you have enough money to buy the Cadillac? Maybe. But do you have enough money to keep it on the road and maintained and tuned up and everything else? Those are two different purchases.
Well said.
Those are two different business plans.
Yeah.
And so that's one thing that we have to forecast and look out for, is not only can we afford to buy it, but can we afford to own it?
Well said.
Great one. It's a great one. I love that. Okay. So as we round this out, I'm kind of curious for each one of you. Kick off with Glenn first. Glenn, if you wanted a private roundtable, what's the most burning topic for you right now? And I'm not going to.
I thought you were going to ask me name my 3 favorite people for the roundtable, and it was going to have to be you 3.
And that too.
I think the topic for me would just be, I want to become more of a subject matter expert on court modernization using technology, right? That's my new job. That's where I'm really focused on. And so how can I make where I'm at today a better place via technology that's sustainable, manageable, and all those fun things that go with that? That's my answer. Final answer, Regis.
And I do have a follow-up. You said court modernization. I got to ask, what does the word modernization mean to you?
Yeah, so a good example is I've been asked to find ways to leverage AI for court translations and transcriptions. So we have folks that come in that aren't native English speakers. We've got the stenographers. You remember in the movies where you got the person in the corner banging away at that little typewriter? We're looking at how do we capture that same essence of what's going on in the court session through technology? And to me, that would be modernization of that experience in the courtroom. And then lastly, we're looking at doing more virtual court hearings, right? We've got folks in jail or in prison. We want to minimize the transfer of those folks into our courtrooms. And so just leveraging existing technology on both sides to have virtual court appearances. We're doing that some now, but we want to do it better and smarter, leveraging some of the new tool sets that are coming down the pike.
Nice.
That's great. Dom?
For me, the theme I have for the rest of the fiscal year and next year is being a digital county. And what I mean by that is everything is digitization. Our website is going to be fully digital. It's going to have a new search, source of truth. Our citizens come for services in terms of the parks, animal care, human services. shelters, events, parks, whatever that may be, but also extending it out to the back end capability. Governments need to be mini tech companies and provide services at a very speed and scalable level. So I want Broward to be a true digital county going forward. We've done some modernization, back-end infrastructure. AI helps with that, but change the business rules. Get out of those old BPR processes. Look at your business applications. Where can I automate going forward? Because the landscape is forcing us more into using technology to be an efficient game changer going forward. I think it goes back again, lessons learned back in the 2000s, lessons learned in modernization, leveraging RPAs, even those stories years back. So to be a truly digital citizen focused county to provide services quickly, would be water, utilities, paying bills, going to parks, booking pools for kids, libraries, everything now it's been digital for the last 25, 30 years. And our governments should be more in tune like that, because citizens want that. They want to find their home permits, their home buildings, look up their court cases, and whatever it is, it requires a digital interaction to do that. So that's our theme for the next year, is becoming a truly digital county.
That's fantastic. I just have kind of one highlight at the Bellagio. They've nailed the digital experience on the app. It was incredible. There was a massive line. I'm like, I don't want to check in there. That sounds like a nightmare. And I was able to get not only just my digital key, but I was also able to send it to my wife. She was able to get a digital key. I was able to, do I want to upgrade? Do I want this? And 2026, you kind of think, Joe, it's kind of been around, but a lot of companies have kind of fumbled it, by the way. A lot of companies have fumbled it. Have you ever been to a hotel room and you're like, oh, now I got to go downstairs, or, oh, we checked you in, but you still got to go see the front desk. The Bellagio, I think, was the best I've seen so far. They crushed it. John, what roundtable would you love to see? Close us out.
All right. I'm very lucky as that my fantasy roundtable, we make a reality already. So we have a customer advisory board where we invite CIOs at all levels, cities, counties, state level, right? Utilities, like huge Texas utility CIOs. We get together in Round Rock, and not only do we talk about, they get to talk with each other about what they're seeing, what they're battling at all levels. We bring in Dell executives. So imagine being able to have 30 minutes to 45 minutes with Michael Dell, which we did, our CTO, our CISO, and talk about, this is how we solved that problem. And the CIOs at all levels see, hey, y'all went through the same thing we did. And then how did you solve it? And we tell them. And it makes it say, okay, you're this huge, big, successful, customer-friendly company. That's my description of it. But you're going through this and you're sharing what you fumbled. And so that it's an awesome time, and I wouldn't change anything about it. It's awesome.
So you got to give me a specific example. That sounded great. You go to Round Rock, you get to meet Michael Dell, you get a selfie. You got to give me an example. And I'll give you an example because I just had Bob Leake came on. I know he's on the customer advisory board. You've been on the pod several times. What's a county CIO at a Dell advisory board asking?
He's asking besides Michael Dell, the big hit was our CISO, right? He shared, and this guy is an industry expert to the max. He looks 25. He's probably 35. So much experience. And they say, hey, how did you solve this? How did you solve it? It's all around. Most of the conversation was around security, and they really pinged him on it. They actually did ask our Dell CIO about pricing and why can't we eat some of it?
Yeah. And Joe, if I could add just one thing, I want to kind of go back to something I said earlier. I'm on an advisory board too, but mostly for our PAM product sets. We were fortunate to have a state CIO from Kansas and myself from a county level. We were giving advice on the products that we actually use, how to make it better, stay true to your core mission, which are these things, and this is what we want to see going forward. So I think that's a little more, it's an intimate surrounding. It's a very closed environment. You give tough feedback. But for a fantasy roundtable, to add to the piece I was saying about being a digital county, I think you need to have, not what John was saying is great, but I think it takes away from where counties and cities and municipalities operate, and very specific different environments. We all have the same challenges, the same opportunities, but it comes down to really theme ad valorem funding. But I also think it's structural too. I think how counties are structurally built and how they look at technology, it's a different conversation. And my personal opinion is I think how counties look at technology acquisitions needs to change going forward. It's a different model. The way these things are built today aren't sustainable because the speed of these applications and the pricings are not stagnant. It's not like building a building or a road or a bridge or a highway. This is a piece of software that needs to be implemented quickly. And if you don't have it, you lose pricing power. That's a different conversation. That'd be a very strong fantasy roundtable, is to start putting these people in a spotlight to talk about how to make that better to deliver, because these are technology projects that have to be delivered for citizens. When those are delayed, other things are delayed too as well. So I love to see that kind of conversation.
So Dom, it's almost like you were in the room, because
I
we had that
wasn't,
exact
but I was there.
we had that exact conversation. So
Yeah.
if we bring everybody together like that, maybe next time we'll have breakout session with the county folks.
But
You
for
know
that
what I
kind
mean?
of conversation, you're challenging people's positions of career. You're challenging acquisition officers to think and do something differently.
Right.
Glenn was saying, you have people who are trying to teach them new tricks, and do they want to, for the greater good of the courts, or the greater good of the county, or the greater good of the state? You have to have these systemic changes to make up with the time. So for those who've been around for a while, we all have, I can go back to privacy law, 1974 Privacy Act. It's still not updated. It's like 50, 20, 30 years later. Technology has moved way past those statutes. And I think we in counties and states are dealing with administrative codes that need to be really updated to meet the current times. That's a different conversation for us. That's more political, but it's those ones that have to happen there for really start to get the execution, so that Glenn and I can do what we do best, basically.
That you just described the HR job descriptions that we have to fit, right? They're
From
15 to 20
74?
years old with specific product names in them. That
But
right?
but Glenn, I think you and I can appreciate being both in public and private, where the speed and the agility is for acquisitions. And I think, Joe, I think that is where a really hard, really good fantasy roundtable with chief acquisition officers getting together and trying to figure out where structurally can their administrative codes be modulated to give some leeway and flexibility to CIOs who make acquisition decisions and make technology decisions, vice just pushing paper to go out and buy it somewhere. When we make a decision to say we're going to buy X, we've vetted it, we're the authority, we know where it's at, tell us what vehicle to go after, give us the best process for that. But the decision is made on technology. We're there, we're going, basically, at that point. Businesses have vetted it, they all like it, it has functionality that they need to meet their requirements. That part's done. How we buy it now, it's a different conversation at that point.
Okay, this is a fantastic conversation. We're going to wrap this up. Thank you, Glenn, Dom, and Jon, for coming on the podcast. And I can't wait to release this episode. I think it's going to spur a lot of great conversations with CIOs around the country.
Hope.
All right. Thank you
So,
for having us.
appreciate it.
Appreciate
This
it,
was
buddy.
awesome.